Hello everyone, today we talk about the channel, our 5,000 subscription, Schwerpunkt's history a little bit, and future, hopefully, given that I believe there is something here that is going on, which is quite interesting, and I will describe you in a while. So, first of all, I want to thank all my subscribers for the support, right? I managed to gather all this amount of people that seems to be absurdly large, right? It's evidently not at least for a successful channel, given that actually in a few days I could have waited, but on January the 28th it's Schwerpunkt's birthday, meaning that I started it in fact for almost 4 years ago. I began to upload regularly every day, just let's say almost one year later. And let's say lots of things happened ever since. I made a lot of videos, more than 1,200, and at this point it should have been much greater. But at the same time, it's all understandable in perspective, and there have been dynamics that I will expose now that are still interesting, right? Do not speak to me of the history of a failure. Stricto sensu, and there is always a mean to an end, and I had somewhat predicted this would have been the case. Actually, the channel even grew faster than I thought, given that those standards. Also, other things happened in the meanwhile that changed a bit the rates, the speed, and things. But at the same time, I've seen that from the stats that my subscription and view rate, every time the audience is exposed to the content, accidentally, is higher than YouTube's average, which is probably not this big deal either, meaning that, of course, there are lots of YouTube channels, and an incredible amount of videos that are uploaded. So the fact that I'm doing much better than the average mathematically, it's not surprising, given at least the content that I upload and what it's meant to be. And it's in general about this community and what we can do that has interested me, especially in the last year or so, when lots of things changed, primarily with monetization. I know, by the way, some of you have complained in the last week, which had never happened before, even though the settings was all had remained always the same, that there's been an increase in the ads, right, that you've been hammered by those, and yes, I have them at the maximum degree, but let's say I've noticed this conjuncture. I don't know whether YouTube increased that, because it's out of your control. Like, you have basically something like 3 degrees of which you can we can say insert the ads. That what happened with that basically is that I discovered this I remember it was last spring or summer, that YouTube was inserting ads unbeknownst to me, because up to that point had not monetized, and so I decided to monetize, and I'm perfectly fine with that, right? Even if the ads are annoying, right? It's part of the deal. Maybe it kind of slowed down even the growth, because this seems to be normal, but I'm fine with that. It's just if I can regulate them, if there has been an increase now, you want me to, of course, it's better without ads, but let's say just find a compromise in here. It may be that YouTube, especially in times of inflation, all these things, may have decided to cash a little bit more. So I don't know whether I'm actually winning or losing from it, meaning that YouTube, it's not that it gives you much, right? And the reason I monetize is not because I really need money per se. It's just that at least I can symbolically also invest in part of the material, and then the other needs that I have to upload the content and so on, and other things happen in the meanwhile. But the broader reflection is that subscribers kept augmenting over time. That I've been basically re-uploading most of my videos since August. It's been 5 months now. I managed to do something like 320 out of 800, but there are lots that I didn't count, that I simply already were okay in terms of copyright, and it just, precautions, like, let's say, blurred, because I had used this, in fact, blurred images that were copyrighted, and in 500,000 views, I've never got a single complaint or strike. But given that the channel was expanding, I decided to fix them, and it's taken a while. I've been doing it uninterruptedly up to the Christmas vacations, and then I got a bit lazy, admit, and also I began to re-upload at a much lower rate, but not even presenting the videos to you directly anymore. Maybe scheduling from some other day, and when they're published, you basically don't see them because there's all a mechanism that prevents that. But at least they're always there, right? The positive thing about this is that all the videos I made, except maybe for a bunch that for reasons that I won't digress now, I couldn't reinstate. They're there, right? So actually, there's never been quite a loss. I know that the pictures were catchy and all these things, but I also presume that Schwerpunkt was not really much about those in the first place. I've found lots of copyright-free images. You see that I insert these Creative Commons credits at the end of the videos, at least the ones that I make with that kind of license, and it's plenty of pictures. Okay, not that much. Very often I find myself saying, "Dan, I love to to make videos the way I did before," but at least it's safe, and so there's no need at this. But the channel doesn't risk anything at this point, so I'm very satisfied with that. And I know it's been a bit of a trouble for some when it was re-uploading, especially lots of videos back in it, but it's gone well, right? You have responded positively. At the end of the day, you never had this complaint. The only thing is that I basically cut down the algorithmic base, which is something that slowed down the views, the subscriptions, the visualization time, and all these things. Albeit, especially the subscribers have kept at a higher rate than it seems. It seems now that every time I get a slightly greater amount of views, I get more subscribers proportionally. And what is frustrating only is that by cutting the algorithmic base, you know what I mean, is that I started from the videos that got more views periodically. So the ones that had been watched the most, because I said, these are the more successful ones. So if I re-upload them first, I will, with the images, with the new images, I will re-get those views faster. It's not been the case. Also, well, it's a complex thing. In part, I think it's been because there are much more history videos on YouTube than now. Remember when I began, there was literally nothing. Like on the Franks and the Merovingians, I was basically the only person talking about this, about the migration era. Now, I think also by imitation, given that many channels of those ones that make the big money, they have all the graphic compartment, all these things, asked me at some point to write the scripts, etc. I think they took some inspiration from me. There are more videos in general, and what I've seen compared to 4 years ago is that now there are ever bigger channels that monopolize the scene, and fundamentally people watch only those because YouTube's algorithm at least favors them, and so it's normal. And my format is simple, as primitive as you can see. It's basically a podcast, and so yes, I've been checking for proper podcasting, and I still haven't come to a conclusion because I've heard divergent opinions. There are pros and cons. I don't like much how the whole podcasting thing actually works. And I think also I need to expose something when I speak, because at least most of my videos can be just listened to. I understand that, and that's how I built them in the same way. But still, there are some, I don't know, the battle videos. I mean, how do you explain them? And how also, I mean, the pictures are really important. I don't know how many of you actually watch. Because the few videos, the few channels I follow, I just, they are political commentaries, and they, just do something else, right? I don't watch the video, and I just listen to it, and that's it, right? So I know I should expand in podcasting, but I still think that it's not, it's surely more convenient, right? It's just I'm not particularly okay with the idea of having a base that, let's say, offers me, say, just says pays us pay us first, and then you'll see you'll grow, right? I don't trust that kind of idea. I think YouTube, in many ways, is much more, let's say, effective for the purpose that I want to achieve. And I see that the videos gain steam, that there is a growth overall. Just having cut the algorithmic base has produced a collapse properly in the habit of people watching my channel, because more or less they were readdressed to my channel, and I see that the subscribers, at this point, the subscribers' views are naked, because having a very low algorithmic comeback, I just see mostly what the direct reaction of the subscribers is. And from there, very interesting things I noticed as well. They're not even particularly positive in my opinion, because at least I have to pose you some questions about that, because it's really important that I get what, let's say, the aim is making the channel expand. So we've always worked together in this, because we don't have much of a direct interaction. I receive every once in a while appreciated emails that are dramatically complimentary, and saying, showing that many people actually care what I do, what I say, and they appreciate and understand much deeper than I think, basing myself mostly just on the comments, right? And at the same time, we still, let's say, I've provided you with this content. Right now, it's still in a phase. You've seen I've done mostly manualistic stuff, and so I understand that some people maybe do not care about certain topics. Right? If I start talking about ecclesiastical history, I think it's a real pity that you dislike it. You don't watch it at least. And yet, what strikes me is how rather, even against some historical topics that to me would be very interesting for a channel that is mostly based on medieval history, are completely out class in terms of views by my say theoretical reflections. I was seeing it just the other day on that video that had quite a dramatic title that didn't even properly fit what I was talking about, but still on the moral collapse of a civilization. Well, that easily got twice the number of views. An important section of my subscribers that is substantial in absolute terms as well as in relative terms, like tries the same videos, the same views that I made, for example, my last video on Frederick II of Hohenstaufen. Now, we're talking about a channel based on medieval history, so if I make a video about Frederick II of Hohenstaufen, in spite of the despicable ignorance that surrounds our popular culture relatively to this elementary ABC topics about medieval history, that if you don't know, basically means you don't even know what medieval history is, I find it, you would expect maybe Frederick II to be an interesting topic. Somebody that people want to watch and continue watching, not so much. Instead, if I talk about this broader political, military, social reflections in a broader philosophical sense, in a with this moral dimension, scientific dimension, people watch and listen, right? And that's kind of interesting, because I've never heard you, like, I see that at least given that the subscribers have increased and so that there is a greater crowd here, that I noticed that there's been not just a curiosity or not even an appreciation, which is showed actually, but an evident request from your side for me to talk more about those topics. Now, I am primarily, as you know, here for history, so I believe that I can talk about those topics as long as I substantiate them with historical information, because much of those ideas I matured simply through history, right? And I think that can be matured exclusively through history, right? There is no other activity or subject or field of reason that can provide you with that specific mentality but history. And I explain these things, and I have much more to say, right? There's been at this moment a phase, again, I even stopped making those videos in the first place because I mostly wanted to make history stuff, mostly manualistic stuff, because I realized that in spite of all, I hadn't covered some of the most important historical topics yet, even after 1200 videos about just medieval history. So I'm filling those gaps currently, and it's just a lazy way actually to work, because I should resume. You know that in the last year, for those of you who followed me regularly, I had a pretty heavy blow that changed in many ways my lifestyle and my habits. I'm still living, in a sort of pretty strange state, and so what you see is happening here is probably to you. I don't know if you grasp that, but I'm still adjusting, right? Even this summed itself together with, the fact I finished the doctorate and I began to re-upload this video. So it's as if I lived in another world now, and my ideal would be to resume the rhythm I had before. Yes, it's always one video a day. I never let you down on that, and I presume that many of you follow me also because I'm just this daily presence that, after all, seems to be reliable enough on the grounds of that constants. But I would like to get back to more specific topics that are probably also going to be more liked in general, like mostly more military stuff and more military theory, and even expanding in other, modern contemporary warfare, not just the ancient or medieval one. And that I started other series in the meanwhile, haven't quite produced much because of this, plan changing. But I have those in store. Like, one of the great advantages of my activity that I'm not searching for really a sponsor for, but you, that is my audience, and so the views that I make, especially the watch length that I get, the subscriptions and so on, is mostly revolving around the fact that I have an unlimited amount of topics and an unlimited amount of videos, all different in nature, right? Especially these manualistic ones, they seem a bit more repetitive sometimes because they are such big topics that I have to also connect them to other things I said, and I want even the average user that comes here from the first time that hasn't followed me to know what I'm talking about, right? Because yes, it's manualistic basic stuff, but you know that the way I make these videos is actually very, it's not flashy, right? I get somewhat in depth. That for me is not even scratching the surface, considering that it's not much that I know more, but that I know there is much more than I know, and so these videos are just, come on, how can I? Because I pose myself these questions, like, how do I get away with uploading just an hour and a half videos about things like what it was yesterday, the 14th century late medieval crisis, right? It's ridiculous for me. But even at least not for many, and so that heartens me, because it means that the differential that exists between the audience average or interest or whatever regarding these topics and what I can provide is good for this kind of for this kind of activity, because it attracts, right? And those videos that I make now are going to remain there, not going to re-upload anything except the older ones that were also in fact old, right? So there is no risk of repetition. There is no risk of running out of topics. I can tell you that. There is no risk of running out of topic. I will never exhaust them in my lifetime. I will, the greater problem, which I hope is not going to happen, albeit I'm beginning some other things, but there is always space for some kind of content that I can put together also more speedily, and we should resume von Clausewitz, for example. There could be videos on history of philosophy or something, say, still more theoretical in practice, but given that, I will be involved in some, university activity, and I can tell you, I don't know, the mistakes the students make, I don't know, when they come to the exams, that it happened to me to cope with. Those are interesting because, those are people who in theory come there as, history students, and so if their problem are, if they have those problems, I assume that maybe even the rest of the people maybe have a historical interest but are not that into that may have the same problem. So I don't want to dump things down. That mostly, yes, I have acquired now this kind of intolerance and lack of mercy for any kind of, any kind of superficiality, right? And first of all, towards myself, because I know, as I was saying before, I always feel terribly limited, and I would like to know and do dramatically more than what I do, right? And so far, I acquired at least, this is for me, and the relation that stands between me and the infinite, right? It was pretty central in my life, and then there is the relation that stands between me and other people. And so, again, if I can be useful for the other people in that way, I'm glad even to expose this. And that my topics is mostly, at that point, would be not much correcting the mistake, but actually explaining why those people make those mistakes, which I think it's dramatically more fascinating than anything else, because, again, I think history shows that in a brutal way, highlights it in a brutal way, and can be one thing. But in general, as I was saying, I hope to resume at some point soon my habitual rhythm and the topics I used to discuss. And at the same time, however, really, I would like to hear from you. Why do you think of those videos I make about the general ramble? Like, I can say these ones, for example, because this is in theory just a channel update. I used to do it for every 100th video, but let's say I stopped doing the videos re-upload now. So now I go by 5,000, because even sometimes it's humiliating to say 1,200 videos and 5,000 subscribe, because normally I did it on the base of the videos, right? And since I have to re-upload and etc., I still don't have a clear count, so I don't want to, I don't even have the let's say the satisfaction of saying now I know perfectly that this is a pure number that I can get from 1,200 to 1,300, and making that rate of channel update videos as I used to do before, almost for a year, to tell you what is going on. So it's obvious that I thank you enormously for what we achieved here. Again, I believe that this is extraordinary. Like 5,000 people, even though, yes, the majority, as it's normal on YouTube, the majority doesn't watch regularly and so on, it's still important, because I never got a decrease. Right, things could go up and down relatively to these mostly algorithmic based, but the number of subscribers has kept increasing, and it doesn't go down. It never did, which, morally speaking, is a satisfaction. He's saying, what, after all, this thing, if whoever reaches it, given the extraordinarily low numbers of views, still gets, still says, I want to get more of that. So that is crucial, actually, for the well-being of the channel. And I notice, of course, that these videos about my general reflections seem to be more liked and get me also more subscribers. Now, the point is that I can make them every once in a while, because I think a lot, as you probably understood, and as a consequence, I always have something new to say every once in a while that I can make a video on. I don't use sketches or things, so it's really easy to think that talking about such topics that sometimes are, yes, they're always related to history in a way, but as you know, they are spacing wildly into mostly the universe in general, and so and mostly for what concerns humans as such, and so how things they do for real, so not just a philosophical abstraction about what it should be or shouldn't be without even testing it with reality. So that's why history is necessary to that, because we're talking science here properly from a practical point of view, not just thinking something and then say, well, but is it this real? It's very easy to trick oneself in that way. In fact, this was the topic of of the last ramble the other day, and yet, I don't know, it seems there to be some kind of appreciation. I will keep, I don't know, probably it's even coming back with the military stuff, we'll get more interest and so on. So we'll see what happens. I just wanted to finish this base of medieval history to do it well. There are so many important chapters in medieval history we didn't cover the fullest. So I would like to have this very strong base. First, I don't know how much it's going to take. I think just a couple of months, because not even. I think even in 1 month we can easily exhaust that easily, let's say. And considering, yes, I've done also other videos, but let's say even completing those main topics, and then we will keep talking about medieval history aside from the military stuff. So we're hopefully going to consolidate this mosaic even more, and that's useful, because that's what I also don't understand. I don't understand often whether you're here because of, in fact, of the rambles, let's say this more theoretical topics, let's say the history in general, like even properly basic history and so on, or military history, warfare, because that I specialize in that, and so in theory that's what I believe. I did say important things so far, and I still have a lot of things to say, even in the broader, like, it's not really reporting what others have said, but given that I also contributed to it scientifically, I guess that there are much more things to say, and very often much more disconcerting ones in terms of how much we have let's say properly missed from history. Even at the top of our military history, properly at the top of our scholarship, that is really relevant, to say the least. That I would like to learn, right? If you want me to make more of the general stuff videos, I don't know. I have lots of stuff in mind. That I don't like that would unavoidably derail on some kind of more political point. I know some of you like that, and I know that you like it because I'm not very specific in terms of politics. That is to say, I'm not going to make political commentaries. I'm not saying that guy did that or that other guy said that. I would make this comprehensive theoretical system that you apparently like to sort out and to reflect on, and that I do understand it leaves sometimes margins for a great deal of misunderstanding. There is a contained number of people that, in my opinion, actually understand the point that I'm making in those videos. Because they are so long, these videos are so long sometimes, that even though they are structured in my mind in a certain way, and also they are like cycles that open and close, and so that there is a point to them, it's not easy to follow them and simply saying, okay, I understand it, because I say too much sometimes, and I say, however, that much because that much, in my opinion, reinforces constantly the word point, and so it's useful from those different perspectives, angles to see the thing. I've especially in the last 2 years, I changed dramatically a lot of ideas, of opinions I have. At least everything is much clearer to me than ever before. I don't feel lost. I don't feel like that this amount of things are disorienting. On the contrary, and that's why I think those videos have more views, because they make sense, and it's kind of a miracle, because history made it to me. I didn't know these things before. I had let's say, as most things, we actually all know them, but sometimes they have to be articulated in some fashion. They have been to be expressed. They have been to be outlined, right, and substantiated, because otherwise it's just like an idea, a doubt, or something said. We have to learn how to be always more precise, rational, disciplined, orderly. And because otherwise, without that, we don't get anywhere. And this is the great lesson of history in the first place. So talking von Clausewitz, talking military history will probably help us in some ways. But at the same time, believe me, it's important for now to insist a little bit on the basis of history as well, because this is like learning to obey before learning how to command, right? It's very important. It's an importantly humbling phase that you cannot avoid. right? You can have me saying these things and apparently finding them interesting, but again, those things will never be understood if one doesn't pass from history first. And that's also something you have to do on your own. It's not by listening to hours of videos on on YouTube that you will acquire a greater historical culture. It doesn't happen like that. Like with anything, right? If you don't properly make a research on your own, you don't learn, right? Somebody can tell you something that they can sound interesting, can be a stimulus, in fact, to know more, and that's positive. It's better than nothing. But at the same time, the message has its full sense in only if integrated with the historical content, right? But what is important about it, because I've started receiving offers. People offer me job now. This started suspiciously enough, but not so suspiciously, kind of reasonably enough, when in the same moment in which YouTube made me, introduced monetization, unbeknownst to me. Almost in the same time, of course, I received lots of offers of sponsored stuff that I don't insert because I don't give a damn about those, and I'm not going to stop the video every 10 minutes to tell you, look, why don't you buy this, because it just can't, right? To me, it's already too much to have inserted the ads, as a matter of fact. And I don't remember if I said it before, right? There's been some increase of ads in the last week or so. You said, that they're hammering us with ads now. I didn't change the settings. I think it may be YouTube that, given the current economical situation, maybe is trying to cash more. I can't try to regulate the settings, etc. But, I probably am not winning either, because I don't think I'm really getting more. As a matter of fact, I'm not. So, yeah, I don't remember what I wanted to say. And anyhow, yes, the point is this, that I began to get offers to review some books. They want to make me write script for TV series and all these things. And frankly, most of these requests are let's say disappointing. Like some of them were, at least they promised me, an important amount of retribution for it, so that I found generous and interesting and so on. But it's still a way of making a living. But the point is that if you see what the pattern here, that I've been spotted for people that want, essentially, at least they ask me, which I think it's pretty strange in the first place. They ask me for my historical expertise, which is very strange, because first of all, I'm not the only historian in the world. I don't think to be this dramatic. I mean, I'm making YouTube videos. I mean, people don't even know what I've published so far. So it's very weird to me that somebody who wants to make TV shows or something like that contacts me because, they find me on YouTube, a 5,000 subscribers channel. It's interesting. Again, I don't deny it. That's where I wanted to get at a certain point, because if this is what they ask me when I have 5,000 subscribers, what will they ask for 10,000 or for 50,000? I mean, that's important to me. As I said, I don't do this for the money. I fortunately have, like, for example, I appreciate donations. I've found this. I've created a PayPal account so that everybody knowing my email can send contribution there. But my request is this one: don't send me money. I don't need that money, right? If you really care, in the sense that you see it as a gift, and of course a gift is not a gift is a gift. You decide it. I don't decide it. I'm passive in this. I cannot tell you not to do it, because I put the PayPal there because just, okay, yes, some money is also psychologically, even if I get, I don't know, a very few, I say, wow, there is somebody, right? It's a way to test how much people care about what they do. And it's been extraordinary. There have been some of you, by the way, I can't answer you on PayPal for some reason. I still use XP in a very primitive way. as a very, reactionary European, and I can't, for some reason, because of the lack of updates, I can't use the answer function on Paypal. I can't message you back, so I don't want to be, ungrateful. I appreciate these gifts enormously, but if you have to send me money, if you have to take that money that you earned in some way, by working, by anything, and give it to me as a sacrifice, as a gift, as a contribution, I tell you this, please. That money invested, or in that same value, if you can, invest it in sharing my content, because the algorithm here is bringing the channel down. I keep increasing, but the algorithm keeps going down. I keep growing, in subscriptions, etc., but the algorithm is extremely weak. It doesn't seem to have revived. It's flattening, right? It's paradoxical. I get more subscribers than before, but I get less views than before. And so the idea is that if the channel manages to grow just by more people knowing that it exists, it will grow very fast. And it will grow very easily. So my request at that point, aside from my parrot thing that I say at the end of every video, please share it if you like all that stuff. I really mean it, right? If you want to send me money, invest that money in my growth. Don't invest it in giving me money, because again, I have money. I don't need that, right? Or at least if I, to be, let's say, to be gratified by that, it's just by making a living as a historian, not, let's say, through these opportunities, through the possibility of talking to people about history, to even contribute to these kind of documentaries, educational stuff. That's my goal. It's not, at that point, making a living, a normal living, not really, again, I don't even need that, but, my, I don't know, knowing, as I said before, that income, as minimal as it exists, is a way to say, I'm not wasting my time, even if I would do it anyway. I would do it even without money. But that thing can be a way for me to say, okay, well, then I don't feel like I'm missing something else, right? And in the meanwhile, consider that I'm doing something else. So it's not my primary concern. And it's not my main objective, right? What I want is to talk about history to as many people as possible. So the growth of the channel at this point is the most important thing ever. And I can assure that YouTube doesn't pay much at all. So far, like it's very few, right? I'm not looking for that either, because I'm not even remotely inside of it. And so therefore I don't think about it. What I'm saying is that, again, one of my greatest dreams is to change culture, is to make an impact in that sense, to spread the Clausewitzian theory, to spread some historical education, some strategic culture. And I haven't even began. This was these 1,200 videos I made are just, it's not even a foretaste of the things I can do and I can talk about, I can reach there. So an easy way to make the channel grow is simply to share it. It may seem strange or weird, but we live in the age of social networks, and we still underestimate how easy it is to do that, or how important it is, right? It's not easy, because I normally don't share stuff myself. I know it's bad. Like, why would you share my videos? Like, who's this guy? What was he talking about? Why should you associate yourself to this, to this content? Well, that depends on how much you care. So again, instead of sending me hundreds of boxes that I appreciate, share, right? In places that people are gonna watch. That's the easiest, coolest, safest investment you can make for the channel. The rest is, and it's cheaper, by the way, which is yet another consideration, right? So I don't know. I one thing that happened to me here to see through the stats is that I believe there is a guardian angel, some because last week or so I got unexpectedly a boom in views. Right here I make normally, depends, maybe to 100, 200 views per video in the let's say in the first wave, let's say when I upload them. Then eventually, if this enters the algorithmic cycle, yes, it gets views every once in a while, and it like increases mass, and so it's like becomes like a black hole that sucks in the views and so on. The greater it gets, the heavier it gets, the more it attracts. So that's how YouTube algorithm works, more or less. Those videos I shared were at some point you could see, in a completely artificial way that had never happened in these 4 years, a boom of, I don't know, 700, 800 views in a few hours. So I think that I have a suspicion here. I know there's been a guy who's been supporting me. He was a very good follower, has helped me, and even sent me money. And I suspect that he paid for views, for increasing the view. Right? My first I see this thing is human, because again, it had never happened. It's not algorithmic. Usually, if I had in the past sudden views, they were evidently algorithmic, because they were much flatter over time. They could last, a video could be watched insistently at a higher rate, at a modest rate, for, I don't know, 2 or 3 days in a row, make 200 views, and then counting down, and never rise again for no apparent reason. You cannot know what happens on the internet, meaning if this thing is being shared somewhere, you cannot know, you can't really track that. There is no clear way to do it. Even through the stats, it doesn't actually tell you how it happened. Instead, I believe this thing was either probably somebody shared on a big page or a big forum or something, or they paid for the views. I never bought views. I never bought subscriptions. I think most of those sites that do this are scams, right? They don't really give you back either quality or, but this thing surprised me instead, because I got lots of subscribers proportionately to that increase. So I appreciated it very much. I don't know how it was done. If it was done for free, whoever you are, if you're listening, you're warmly, invited to repeat that, whatever the cost, right? You can't tolerate in front of an audience that you're probably you're having on your own. But that was extremely useful, and I can say that it contributed importantly to the growth at this point, compensating for this algorithmic view that I can tell you it's terrible. I remember last year, just to give you a number, here I have mostly the count is 48 hours. And last year, I remember in December I had to write the bibliography for my thesis. It was a very long thing, and I stopped for a couple of days. And the channel reached the bottom, let's say the algorithmic bottom of 1100 views in 48 hours. At this point now I'm going to have less than 900. While I keep uploading every day. So it's been a big fall because of that reuploading stuff that I've been having. Again, it would have not happened. The channel would have been much greater by this point if I had continued, with maintaining the older videos on, not reuploading them. So this is an important loss of time. I know it's my fault, because I should have not uploaded those videos in the first place, and even if nothing happened, nobody complained, I still feel it's my responsibility, because it is, first of all. It all falls on me, so this is just, how it should be. But again, this goes beyond any temporary crisis. The channel is, again, as I was saying, is keeping to grow after all. It's just, if we can accelerate this, I can't promise you that I'm not going to, this thing is going to go on pretty much, and expanding in ways that probably here we can't even properly foresee. But if I have already been offered certain tasks to participate to some, documentaries of movie making, historical stuff, just know that you can see something that is not the usual stuff that you have been habituated to. That is to say, movies now that, since they want to pretend that they have historical accuracy and to show a scene just because people have decent historical let's say equipment, and still representing a battle in the worst, most ridiculous, nonsensical, illogical ways, just because the audience doesn't, of course, know anything. But my greatest dream would be really to intervene in such things in ways to show it's probably not possible to do with the means, the insurances, all these things, but not a battle for what it was, because again, any reconstruction is not real, first of all, but it cannot be real by definition. But let's say we could move away from the terrible levels that we have seen so far, basically in every single situation, right? And so, again, this is just my fantasy in general, but it's not about that. It's about the fact that there are ways and ways of telling history, and I think that you've been following me so far is because you like the way at least I do it. I found strange things, like on the internet in the last month, there were people talking about me on forums. They say, that's the only, I don't know, it was probably some of you. You said, Schwerpunkt is the only history channel worth something on entire YouTube. And I said, wow, like, if you really think like that, well, it's a honor. And there were other people liking on a forum that completely had nothing to do with this, with YouTube or anything. Random people that start talking about the channel. And if you can do that, I can, of course, profit for the channel itself, not for me, again. I can do this because I already got it. Again, as I said before, if you want to send me money, don't send me money, share videos. That's the best thing you can do. It's really important. That's how important it is. I don't do it for the money. I do it for history. It's different. So that's the driving force. That's the only way you can do these things, because otherwise I would have not uploaded for 4 years videos with these meager results without having faith in what I'm doing. This is extremely important. Extremely. Not for me, for everybody. If we can make it work together. And we can. And we will. I'm sure of that. It's just a matter of time. It's just, in fact, how much time do you want to wait? If you can shorten that easily. So I would like to try this experiment, that is, pick your favorite video and share it like crazy. Like, even, I don't know, I don't know that you're not going to have the time. It's kind of creepy, but create fake accounts, create disinformation things in favor of Schwerpunkt. Do whatever you can. Let's take over, because that's the objective of it all. This is an offensive purpose. This has to do with our offensive capacity. It's a strategy. We have an objective. We have a moral force. We just need to go there and take it, right? This is the most important thing of all. So again, there are many things that probably this video can I wanted to start it by saying, yeah, most of the subscribers are recent, so they don't know what the channel is about. This may be a good occasion for even saying a bunch of things about that, because, as I said before, if you go in the Easter Rain playlist, you can find basically all Schwerpunkt's history based on these, say, reflections that I make mostly, and you can see there a bit also of evolution of my thought and so on. And the many people who have subscribed in the last year or so do not factually are becoming, frankly, the majority. In fact, so far, almost at least 1 year ago specifically. But if we were 1 year and a half ago, surely they are the majority already. So 1 year and a half ago, I was already in some. Things were evolving, and they were evolving for the right verse, but you may have missed what it was, even for the ones that were subscribed more recently. For example, many of you do not know of the von Clausewitz series. I'm sure it. The von Krieg, I mean. And the whole reason why this channel features von Clausewitz avatar, why it's called Schwerpunkt. I admit it, I never made a video to explain what Schwerpunkt is. In fact, I plan to do it. It's just I've been planning to do it for 2 years. I still haven't done it because it's such a topical moment. And in general, these other things got in the way. So I'm thinking, but we can't do it. It's not a problem. It's not an urgency even, right? But it's important to stress the fact that this is not a history channel that you get here and you listen to somebody talking about history and it's like there's a plot behind it. Right? There is something that you don't see, that I don't let you see yet, because it's too early, right? It's too... It has emerged here and there, but it's not quite gotten enough substance to mount up the whole system to structure it in full light, right? You know that my content is becoming even more disturbing at some level, because I'm starting to say things that I couldn't think I could say up to a few years before, and this is even subtle too. It's not much of a political point. It's not much of a moral thing. It's something. It's how that is combined, which is the worth of this channel, and that probably is not going to be, it's not going to be particularly easy, right? In a kind of gentle, serene path in the future. But we will, again, that's also why I began to re-upload the videos, because if there was any chances of being, of this channel being taken down, now it's been annulled from 5 months. And the some of you do not properly, in fact, did not follow. Mostly von Clausewitz saying that I abandoned from 1 year because I got so disturbed mentally that I don't know, it was a way to be too still hooked to the past, but I will resume it as well, hopefully soon. But even in there, it's not urgent per se. It's just it gives structure to the channel. It acquaints people to the point of it all, and yeah, I could say more, but let's keep it this way. Just know that there are other videos. I know that most YouTube channels are like, just look at the new video. Well, Schwerpunkt in this sense is just a store of information. Like you can find a lot there that is always relevant. As far as, of course, my mind can change, but let's say there are certain historical concepts that are always relevant there. So this is not about entertaining. This is about informing. And so I created lots of playlists, as I was saying, that are really important to browse if you are, if you want to even see normally the amount of stuff that I've done. Again, I think I'm not even sure most people realize whether this is. They subscribe, but they don't check the playlists. Give a check to the playlist and see what is. I know that the first, I inserted in the first page, but probably contributed also to the subscriptions, these previews of the playlist and so on. But it's just the number of playlists has exploded recently. It's not easy to create new playlists because so far, yes, I have systematized information in a way that I can directly draw material from playlists, drawing it from other playlists that I know. But otherwise, sometimes I have to go through all the 1,200 videos. It doesn't take much, like it can take half an hour, but for a single playlist, can be annoying. Even the re-uploading process, of course, has taken time. So I'm not at the full, gear with the full, that there is still, again, something that I'm settling. But I hope when this is done, which is not going to take too long, right? The re-uploads probably are going to take long, but gradually the majority of Schwerpunkts videos are now definitive already, right? And they're increasing. I'm making them all the time, and new videos, and sometimes they're also I can't say substitutive of older ones I made, but this new wind, let's say, of for example, minimalistic content is also flanking, but in a sense surpassing also the older videos. So it is obvious that the more videos I make, the better they become, at least as far as this format is concerned and how it works and so on. So again, I'm positive about the wolfing. I don't think it's gonna, there is an immediate problem, if not this thing of reviving a little bit the views, right? Another thing you can do to help the algorithm is to like or dislike like crazy. Like if you, normally YouTube, I think it limits you, right? You can't really like more than 2 or 3 things at a time every day, like in maintaining that. But anyhow, if you follow regularly the channel, just if you like or dislike, it's gonna add to the algorithm, and it's fine. It's great. By the way, I didn't change the thing. If you probably noticed that there are not dislikes anymore on YouTube in general. So this is something that apparently we can't fix, but the dislikes are actually counted. If I go check my content here, there is a bar where it says likes and dislikes, and I keep seeing the dislikes, whereas you can't. And again, I would have never hidden that, but YouTube decided it. I don't remember what it was, like 1-2 months ago, something like that. So basically, I mean, I'm not sure entirely it's a positive thing or a negative thing, because there are pros and cons to that. But in general, by guts, I don't like it much. I preferred when I had dislikes inside, and yet unfortunately it's not the case anymore. But anyhow, it's fine. I am actually carrying out an important process of comment censoring, not much because of the dissent which exists, but it's contained and also evidently motivated by the person's wherever they come from, say in their background, but they say mostly because of the unnecessary comments, like things that are probably not pertinent to the video, or that are that don't even make sense, or that express historical ideas that personally I say, but what the hell, like, why do you even write them? What's the point of this? I would show you if I could, but the problem is that, first of all, there is this filter that I don't check often, because also I have other things to do. Essentially, I make all these videos and then I upload them, and I don't want to even see the statistics every once in a while anymore, because it's kind of annoying. And it's obvious that the more views I get, the more comments I get. Sometimes I don't have even the time to read them. So it happens that some get lost because after a while they get cancelled if I don't approve them. So this can happen. Some comments get lost along the way. I do actively censor, even against algorithmic convenience, because comments do count for the algorithm. But some ideas are, in my opinion, like, sometimes it's a matter of, first of all, not spreading properly ideas that I disagree with, in the sense that in the video I don't actually say certain things, or that the point of this criticism is not the point. First of all, it's not substantiated by anything in the same comment, right? If I say, I disagree with you, the good thing is to say, look, I disagree with you because this thing is in this way, because I can't prove you that it's in this way. If you say just, make a slogan and pretend that I'm going to just leave it for people that have to listen for 1 hour and a half and just see your comment before listening to my video, of course it's not going to happen, because these videos are very difficult to digest already, one by one. So I'm not going to let people being channeled by, say, influenced by ideas that are, dramatically simpler to assume than what I can say 1 hour and a half. That actually is pretty often misunderstood, as I was saying before, properly, because people do not listen. This happens quite easily all the time, especially when I see that the criticism is always in the first minutes, right? I talk for 1 hour and a half, normally developing the point throughout all the whole thing. If you start, if you all you have to say is from the beginning of the video and about things that they got regularly misunderstood, and willingly so, in my opinion, I'm not going to let the comment, because it's it actually damages the purpose of the channel. It doesn't damage my ideas, right? If I say like something that is a mistake, for example, say, banally, I don't know, you said that this date, this name, this event, it didn't go like that. Look at this. Okay, if it is just because there is an ideology behind that, and this ideology wants to be forcibly substituted, or hoping to debunk the massive volume of stuff I make without any effort whatsoever. The point is, nobody needs that, right? The chances are, if you're still here listening to my videos, is that you need to hear what I have to say, not what you have to say about that. So it's if you're so critical about to the point that, again, I would make you examples of this. They are sometimes even embarrassing to the person, but that's actually even one of the reasons why I don't allow them, because I have the temptation all the time to engage myself, as I used to do when I was young and foolish, to even answer these things, because they could be demolished in even a less amount of that comment it could be. But the point, I'm not going to do it, because first, I don't want to this person to be bitter towards the content, because again, I think that the content is like, if you come here, for example, from a completely outer perspective, you don't like what I say, and you say, and you're just insultive, and said, I block you, right? Instead, that with the other people that follow me, I don't do this, even if they come from political backgrounds that I totally despise. I'm going to let them keeping to right? I'm not shutting them down because I find them annoying. I don't want to read what they say. It's actually funny to read what they say, because they give me fuel for further topics to criticize and debunk when I make my points. And so I hope that thing will dilute itself in the process, and that's it. Right? You say, but you're hiding the comments. What are you hiding? Are you scared? Are you fear? I'm in charge here. I don't have to respond to anybody, right? As long as I don't break the law or anything, I can do this. It's my, the platform gives me the possibility of doing. I use it, and the reasons why I do it, believe me, are more imposing than they seem. Because if it depended on me, I would leave everything public. But then the channel would grow faster because of that. But I don't do it, because I care about that sense of authority and order and discipline that the specific narrative that I'm providing you with is designed for. So if I were to respond to those, if I had to allow those things, I would have to respond to them. And I don't have time for it. I don't have time to make a greater effort than one I do to upload this video. So I wouldn't even tell you if I wanted to pretend that everything was fine, that people were all right. They mostly are, right? Because even the criticism I get is mostly polite, right? I sometimes find it that it mostly, it's ideologically based. Like, it's not a person who says, here, normally I receive criticism about the historical data that I provide, or the I don't know, even the audio and video problem. People don't remember at the beginning they said, "Oh my God, this is so poorly made," whatever. They stopped. I think because I improved somehow. But they are ideological. That is, to be open, most of the times it's a leftist background, right? And so that point is mostly to me, you're not actually answering because you are commenting because there is a point there, but because you don't like what you hear. Because if you wanted to debunk what I said, I would even allow your content. I would allow your comments if it is like an extremely long, constructed, to the point, to the letter, with evidence, with things. I would say, okay, wow, you can't get there, and I would leave that comment. But if it is just a polite shout out because in that moment you lost it because you didn't like to hear that I'm making that kind of point, and you openly state things that are also unhistorical, because let's be honest, I would really like to give you the example of the single comment because you would understand that. But again, I think that there is no need to do it because it would be just getting to the lower point, right? If we still have to get past those problems, those things we got past even before Schwerpunkt was born, right? So it's history who does it, not me. And so I don't even feel responsible for that, right? If I started making active political, militant propaganda activity, I would accept that, at that point. At that point, I would even justify the bias to shutting down dissent in that sense. In this sense, I do it for the level of development that I assume my content is providing and that is not being met with. And that's actually the point of it all. To be as polite as I can, and I'm very serious about it again because normally my first policy when I started the channel was I will receive a hellfire of criticism because of all the things I'm talking about, but I'm leaving everything public. What happened now is that basically I'm receiving no criticism, but I'm often censoring even the comments that are in favor of my channel if they say something particularly stupid. And I do, because they are more than the ones that criticize the content. So that's the kind of, of general, philosophy that you can, the general policy that I'm enacting. And it's unpopular, but I don't care, right? At least as long as the YouTube is concerned, when people come to see, I want them to listen without things that lower or shift the point of the video. I don't that lower, let's say, the level or shift the point of the video, because again, it's already complex to digest them individually. I cannot afford to leave, the kindergarten happening below in the comments, right? That's the reason. For the rest, I think it's working, right? I see many people like and are engaged daily. They get an important amount of. I see that there are lots of people who follow regularly. So in that sense, I appreciate everybody, and especially those who criticize at that point, because, you must be, interested, outwardly speaking, in getting that much, properly, because sometimes the ideologies are incompatible. And they're incompatible because I explain why they're incompatible. Maybe sometimes I just give too much for granted. Again, I realize it, and that's the problem I always had with the comments ever since the first time, that I make a point in the video and this point is completely skipped, and it's very frustrating. And this happens to basically to all YouTubers that I've heard addressing the issue the same way. You make points, somebody arrives, doesn't listen just a minimal part, doesn't understand it, twists everything you says, and pretends to be listened to, even if it's a positive remark. that is forbidden here. It's not going to happen. What else about this 5,000 milestone? We reached the size of a early imperial Roman legion. The organic is there, right? We can take over, important parts of, some regions in Europe. We can try that at some point. But the idea is the creation of some sort of, I can say, paramilitary, community. But I would say that there is, as you know, a point of this all that goes beyond mere history, and so that's what I hope Schwerpunkt can represent in ways that, again, I still haven't been particularly vocal about, but that you will probably see at some point. Yeah, I can't think of much else. Usually I always say I would like to say more, but I have to cut. Right now I'm either distracted by some of my interlocutors. That I should close this because it's easy to get distracted with some interlocutors, but I'm not going to be more specific about it. I can say all the emotional part, but that's not maybe that interesting. That is to say, let's put it in this way. It's not easy to do this. I like it, but it's not easy. That's why I spend all this time too, because I don't see, as I was saying before, the failure. I don't see the idea this as a loss of time. I think it's a long-term investment. I think it's something that I benefited enormously from mentally, for all the things I've learned, from all the opportunities I've had properly to expand my mind, and it will go on. I hope to be able to integrate Schwerpunkt in my daily, like in my work proper at some point. I mean, maybe still keeping it separated, but still at some point I will probably come out of my shell as well, because if I ever get involved in these kind of offers that I was telling you before, that since the first year I was asked by televisions to appear, doing things which again I found very lame in general, because like if people have to enrich documentaries with interviews with people that that have talked about the topic documentary on YouTube, probably there is something wrong with you. So I can be flattered by it, but frankly I'm going to say no for now. Like, unless it's something really consistent, I have no reason to open to say who I am, all these things, because who cares? Like, it's not the point. I'm trying again to make points that are already difficult by themselves in my videos, so I don't need to attract people more, even for more superficial reasons, to my channel. Having said this, I want to continue, right? There are times you say, well, YouTube is not forever. For me, it's never actually been. It's been, of course, my daily companion so far for a long time. And so after a long time, you start thinking even, but, is this thing going to end or not? And I'm not intention to end. I mean, I can't easily see reasons for which I could at least stop making videos daily, but I don't see the reasons why it should happen. I don't want it to happen because I think, again, that it's time saved. If I can keep doing this, I can easily, make it ever better. And so I go on. I don't have problems with that. Some of you ask me, do you have, a nervous breakdown when they saw that I had shut down the videos to blur them all and then started re-uploading them? No, I don't have a nervous breakdown. I had almost nervous breakdowns because I had some things happening to me, and the channel actually helped me getting over them, and I wouldn't think I would have them right? In the last 2 years, what has happened, I can tell you this to make you understand where I come from with the things I do and say. In the last 2 years, I've considerably increased my knowledge of history of religions, of the Clausewitzian theory, and some specific aspects of this. And in some, let's say, in parallel, having some life experiences that brought me very to the extremes, sometimes morally, and I've had what I think it's not a I wouldn't say a unique experience, but definitely I don't know how many people who have my same kind of experience. And so in part this is becoming upsetting, because the average person I talk to doesn't even understand what I'm talking about anymore, because they don't see it, and they assume things that tell much more about themselves than anything about outside of themselves. And it's become more difficult for me. Like life, it's become like it's easy. As I said, I'm lucky. But within myself, it's not become easier. But the beauty of it is that I like it. That there is a cost, but there is also an achievement, because if I hadn't invested so much on these new ideas that I found out, and I hadn't figured out that they work in reality, I would have never increased the friction with reality itself. I could have not achieved it otherwise. So I kind of condemned myself to be now forever aware, unless my brain will melt down at some point. That for any reason, by the way, as life, as biology, and can always happen, and much worse than that. Factually, that wouldn't even be the worst that could happen. But let's say that at this point I will leave forever with, because your brain cannot really cancel what it has learned. And things I have learned regarding this connection between the sacred, say the mind and reality, and how to make it work morally and scientifically, and how this comes back from history in a radically violent way, and how this is what we're not seeing collectively, and that's why it's becoming ever more difficult and straining, is the entire reason why I'm here now. And it's as if at this point you say, well, yeah, it's just making YouTube videos, but I can tell you from my perspective, it's becoming alarmingly wiring. Not much to YouTube in itself. I mean, of course, if this thing shut down from a day to another, it wouldn't be that easy. Fortunately, I'm saving everything, so that is not a risk for me to lose all. But obviously, as I was saying before, just this re-uploading experience told me how precious the sedimented algorithmic points were, right? And I didn't expect. But it's becoming something beyond mere history. So that's why I start understanding why you follow me, even though I think that, I mean, it's the same reason. It's just that I'm a bit more ahead, and it's scary. So if you want to follow me, just be aware that these things are, again, difficult to access, but if you access them, you cannot come back quite the same way you were before. And I can't hide that I'm concerned about this, and yet I think now it's addictive to a point where I can't let it go. And the way these video making helps me making a point at this point is the most powerful learning mean that I've ever used. The video making, the research, the daily commitment, it's really drawing that picture, and that's why I'm getting past any other consideration practically, because I consider that irrelevant. I'm considering that even dangerous, or properly something to counter to fight against. So I'm not entirely sure whether you get what I'm talking about, because I'm willingly cryptic about it. But if you go listen those videos I made, yes, about the superiority of Roman civilization, or it's kind of even looking generally speaking at how I address civilization matters in all the history videos, you start understanding what I'm talking about. And I'm starting to understand, in fact, that again the theoretical videos are more liked because they condensate that view in ways that are very relatable. I mean, they're not even very scary about it, but I get comments that say, wow, I should reconsider, the way I believe so far after listening to this video. That's something nobody ever told me. So I'm inoculating these ideas in you, in my faithful followers, that are, I don't want to make you consider as happy few, because again, we have the need to enlarge the thing, and it's not to be given for granted that, again, even by watching, you fundamentally get completely what I'm saying. But I can tell you that it's going to be difficult for others, because for others that you may love, etc., and I speak by direct experience, these things are sometimes unacceptable, not because there is anything wrong in them, but because they can't see what they mean, and they feel threatened by the in the, let's say, in the stability, the fake stability that they have pretended to create about themselves and the way they interact with the world. So there's going to be a lot of friction wherever these ideas are going to be spread. If I start doing them the way I intend to, and it's going to happen, it's just, we are just at the beginning. In any case, that's the sap of the channel at that point. It's just, again, as I said at the very beginning, it should be substantiated with the evidence that I provide you with, because otherwise I think that the risk is just I'm galvanizing without control. And of course I'm not responsible for what you do, and there is nothing illegal that I'm doing. And I think it's overall it's a very positive thing to say. It's just that, again, nobody has ever interpreted a single idea in the same way. So all this invitation to be responsible and to bring yourself to the limit of your capacity, to prove how far you can go, and learning is getting to another, say, destroying yourself or rebuilding yourself in a better way, and going further and further, is properly it's risky. Right? The ideas that I'm spreading are tough. Right? They're not simple, and they can come out of hand. I can tell you that I've come back to this mood from when I was from more than 10 years ago. More than 10 years ago, I had the same fire, and I gave it up because I thought that it was destructive, that there was no point in being so religious to the limit. And realizing after 10 years that what you've done in the meanwhile was essentially disregarding this fundamental necessity for real improvement is a mistake, and that we more or less all engage in this for reasons that I explain normally in those videos, but the more theoretical ones, but that is even clearer than what I outlined. It's emerging from a mist, from this clouds that you normally look at and you can't quite see much beyond. But if you look more carefully and close, if you make an effort to dispel them, you start seeing emerging something that is scary, but it's also wonderful for what you can personally achieve. And I don't know where this is going to lead, because the progress in the last, especially in the last 2 years, not even was brutal. And it is true that I campaigned it with other experiences, but let's say it started from here, and maybe my life would have been even easier at this point, but I'm not sure of it. I think that it would have felt more, I'll say, less accomplished. I would have probably even failed in certain things that today I have, and I don't even regard, because I'm already, again, with the heart beyond the obstacle, yet again. So probably many of you listening to this thing will be disoriented and confused, and kind of saying, what the hell is this guy, doing, right, in the first place? What was he on at that point? It's okay. It's okay also at that point, but I'm talking mostly to the bodyguards, to the personal retinue that I know is there and that is following accurately, right? And these are the first disciples, let's say, and there is something moral and mystical beyond that, and I promise that I will make it take shape ever more, and I will not let you down on that. So if you want this to happen, help me making it, make this thing grow. Be ready for it, be active, support it. It's incredibly easy, because the ideas are striking, and there could be some again backfire. There will be again some sort of reaction to it, but it started, and so I have decided this thing is going where it has to go, and to the valors, a few words are enough, right? Even though this video lasted, I think, like 1 hour and a half or something, but at least these last ones that became ever more disturbing, were enough, and that's exactly what we are getting at. And so, anyhow, this may be the most mysterious videos I've ever made, but it's good. And so I thank you again for the extraordinary result, 5,000. It's not about how it happened, it's about the absolute quantity. It's about what for you this has meant, for the fact that you have remained, for the fact that you have always grown, for the fact that you've always you have improved, you are disciplined, you are orderly. There is an incredible substratum of that I can't see, because you don't manifest yourself openly. But I know that you're working behind this, because every time there is a minimal hint of that, or if somebody speaks to me privately, I get ideas and thoughts that I realize that this thing is working for real, right? So I'm extremely proud of that, because I'm proud of you, right? And so I hope to be up to it. I will not let you down. I will do my best, I promise you, right? And this thing will go on. In any case, for now, we stop it here. I just hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please share it. Otherwise, leave a like or subscribe to my channel if you're interested in my upcoming content. And for now, I thank you heartily for listening to me. I wish you a nice time, and see you next time.